On the investigation into Michael Jackson's death. Was the Jackson family aware of Michael's prescription drug use? New evidence this morning. They may have tried to hold interventions in an attempt to save his life. Lisa Fletcher is in Los Angeles, has the latest for us. Good morning, Lisa.
Good morning, Robin. We are out in front of the Jackson family home, and those close to the family tell us that friends and family desperately wanted to help Jackson break free of his addiction. But they say Michael would go ballistic if anyone even brought it up. We are also learning this morning that the LA Coroner's Office has subpoenaed some of Jackson's medical records from doctors who treated him, further suggesting that inappropriate prescribing may have been what led to Michael Jackson's death. If doctors recklessly prescribed or injected Jackson with drugs that ultimately killed him, the LAPD told CNN they may have a homicide on their hands.
That is going to be very dependent on the toxicology reports that due to come back, and based on those we'll have an idea of what it is that we're dealing with. Are we dealing with a homicide? Are we dealing with an accidental overdose?
While it's become obvious that Jackson's life was full of drug use, ABC News has learned Jackson's inner circle desperately tried to intervene. People like Mark Schaffel, a former Jackson confidant who helped plan an intervention in 2003.
We all kind of came together, figuring as a group maybe we could really just sit down with him.
The intervention never took place because Jackson was arrested on molestation charges. TMZ is now reporting that when police raided Jackson's Neverland Ranch at that time, they found IV stands, painkillers, sedatives, vials, syringes, and among the drugs found, Demerol, Percocet, and Xanax. The Jackson family also tried to help. A source close to the family tells ABC News they attempted at least 2 interventions in the last 4 years.
They were very, very scared about these things, and we talked together, how can we take care of this? But it was very complicated.
Dieter Weissner was Jackson's personal business manager. He says anyone who tried to help Jackson risked being pushed away or fired. Many believe Jackson's road to addiction began after being injured while shooting this Pepsi commercial in 1984. Jackson even admitted he had a problem in a message to fans.
I remain out of the country undergoing treatment for a dependency on pain medication.
But it is now becoming clear the addiction was more than Jackson could handle.
When there were things that he had to do that he necessarily didn't want, the pressure absolutely got to him, and you could tell.
ABC News has also learned that investigators are looking into whether Jackson used fake names to get his prescriptions. Robin?
Lisa, thanks so much. For more, we turn to Ken Seeley, a noted interventionist and author of Face It and Fix It, joins us live from Los Angeles this morning. Ken, thank you. Really want to get your thoughts, but first I want to play a portion of Diane's interview with Arnie Klein, one of Jackson's longtime doctors, and they discussed his drug use.
But here's the problem with Michael. No matter what he wanted, someone would give it to him.
You're talking
because
pills,
the very rich,
you're talking medication.
Yes, because the very rich and the very poor and the very famous all get the worst medical care.
You're saying that being as wealthy as he was, he could go to doctors and get anything he wanted. Do you know he was getting? Did he tell you what he was on?
So Ken, how can you get someone the help they need when they react as Michael Jackson did?
Well, Robin, I see this all the time in my practice, is when addicts want their drugs, they will get their drugs. And if reports are true regarding Michael, you know, no matter what, if you have an addiction, you will find a way to get your drugs. But every addict hits a rock bottom. Every one of them has something they can't live without. And that's my job, is to help the family figure out what that is and raise that rock bottom in a loving manner to get them to treatment.
So let's try and help some families this morning, Ken.
Please.
So many have loved ones who are battling all types of addictions. How do you know that an intervention is the course you should take?
You know, I always say to everyone I work with is when you see the red flags, jump in at the beginning. Don't wait until it gets so life-threatening and devastating. If you see people that have, a couple DUIs or, prescription drug abuse right now is the leading addiction in this country. It's the fastest growing addiction. So if you see people that are nodding out, if you see people that are doctor shopping, if you see people buying the drugs on the internet, don't wait. Get a professional involved and call somebody to help guide you through creating that rock bottom and turning it into a reality.
And if it has gotten to that point, I know you're saying don't let it get to that point, but if it does, how do you go about setting up an intervention? What's the do's and don'ts?
Always get a professional involved. Always have somebody that knows what they're doing regarding an intervention, because if you push an addict too far, they could go further into their addiction, or even worse yet, they could commit suicide because they feel like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. So make sure you have a professional involved, because there is no cookie cutter. There is no book that you could read to exactly know what you're doing.
Not one size fits all with something like that. Ken, thank you very much for your insight. Hopefully that's going to help some people. Really, really do appreciate it. Have a good weekend, Ken.
You too.
Thanks.
Thank you.
It is time now for the weather. Let's head out to Sam Champion in Central Park, getting ready for the Queen. Good morning, Sam.
And Robin, you are wishing you were here right now, because Queen Latifah's been on the stage with her dance.